To see the fully uncut version of this video, head over to patreon.com/Jonjo Lyons.
What's that like to live deliciously? Chaos reigns.
Please don't scream.
Nah, Sid, don't you blame the movies. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative.
What's happening? My name is Jonjo Lyons, and today I'm here to present to you my review for the Gore Gore Girls. Written and directed by Herschell Gordon Lewis, the Gore Gore Girls stars! All of these. A young reporter enlists the help of a top-notch private eye to solve the murder of a female stripper at a Chicago nightclub. How's it going, my gorgeous gang of go-go girls, grinding your clown conch into the blood-soaked face of life's futility, doing the bare minimum to get through each hour, looking forward to the day that this pathetic struggle to the grave finally ends? It's that time again. Time to watch yet another terrible Herschell Gordon Lewis movie. The Gore Gore Girls is a film that's known to be one of, if not the best in Herschell's filmography, and after the bucket of bullshit that was Blood Feast, you know I had to check it out immediately. In this movie, we get more of a traditional slasher story with a killer taking ladies out, lots of red herrings, and as an added bonus, some pretty questionable dance numbers. And a whole bunch of badly done but equally violent deaths. What a great way to start the new year. But before we get into all of that, I just want to remind you, you can see this video completely uncut and early at patreon.com/Jonjo Lyons for as little as $3 a month. That's it. Want to see the uncut videos, gain access to the Discord, and get all the Patreon exclusive stuff? Go over there now. You can also still claim any perks you may have missed on the Better Anything crowdfund, which I'll put the link for in the pinned comment and description below. We're working super hard to get the short finished by February, and then it's film festival time, which is terrifying. As I say every time, to everyone that contributed towards that project, thank you so much. But anyway, I'm in the mood to watch some really awkward dancing, so let's not waste any more time. Get ready to see how wasted a reporter can get off of just one drink. This is the Gore Gore Girls. The movie begins with this woman, Susie, cream puff, checking herself out in the mirror. Behind her, this figure approaches and smashes her face to pieces. Damn, movie! Starting off with a bang! The attacker then stabs the woman and rubs what's left of her face as we cut to the opening credits. Blood orgy? I thought this was called the Gore Gore Girls. Either title's fine, I guess. Cut to this fella, Private Investigator Gentry, reading an article about the murder we just witnessed. He then gets up and sticks his cat in the cupboard before answering the door to this woman, Nancy Weston. She's a reporter who wants to speak with Abe about Susie's murder and offers him $25,000 to investigate it. As an added bonus, if he finds the perpetrator, he'll get another $25,000.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Tell me. Tell me.
Wait a second. Did he just say tell me twice?
Tell me. Tell me.
Jesus Christ, we're only 5 minutes in. I wonder how many more of those mistakes we're gonna spot. Herschell Gordon Lewis is the gift that keeps on giving. Abe accepts the case, taking a check for $5,000, then kicks Nancy out as we cut to this woman having a dance. What you'll notice about these stripping scenes throughout is the terribly unsexy music and the even unsexier dance moves. I don't think they'd really nailed stripping by the 70s. Where's the face grinding? I want to wear my stripper like a fake mustache. In the audience, Abe watches the show and orders a drink from this woman, Marlene, who seems to be just as much of a as the investigator is.
Hello? Hey, mister?
What in heaven's name can I do for you?
What can you do for me?
Well?
I just wanted to know if you wanted something to drink.
When the show finishes, he offers the dancer some money in exchange for information on Susie. The woman says she wanted to be an actress and just did this on the side. She also says Susie didn't have any boyfriends and was more of a tease to the customers, particularly a wormy looking student. Apparently she told the kid she'd spend the night with him for $200, but when he brought a check in, she just laughed at him and tore it up. Abe asks to see the check, so the woman goes to get it and hands it over. From this, Abe finds out the man's name was Joseph Carter, and now with all the information he needs, he leaves. Also, I'll mention here that Gentry is basically Sherlock Holmes in a softcore movie. Sherlock Bones?
I just thought I'd give you a little tip. A girl like you ought to know what to do with this.
Cut outside as Abe bumps into Nancy. He tells her to fasten her seatbelt and they take off in search of Joseph. Cut to them arriving at the apartment and having a chat with this bloke.
Do you happen to be a Mr. Joseph Carter?
Man, you just missed them.
The man says they just missed Joseph, who left to go and see another stripper called Candy Cane. Apparently she was friends with Susie and Joseph said she knew something. The man then gives Abe her address and they head off once again. Cut to Candy Cane herself inspecting her shoulders and then her breasticles. That's when a villainous shadow appears behind her and cracks her over the head. The killer then slashes her throat and takes out a meat cleaver before turning her face into mincemeat. Jesus Christ, talk about overkill! Her face looks like a bowl of dog food after the dog's eaten it. And I know what you're thinking. Yes, of course I still would. Oh, you're telling me you've never f***ed a can of dog food on a particularly lonely Christmas Eve? Liar! Cut to Abe and Nancy arriving at the apartment. They knock, then head inside, discovering the mess that used to be candy, which makes Nancy faint. Hilariously, Abe has zero reaction to this, instead just pouring a bit of soda on Nancy to wake her up. He then calls the cops to let them know about the murder.
Lieutenant Anderson, a friend of mine stepped into some trouble and seems to have lost face.
This guy is such a and that's coming from me. Am I supposed to root for him? Cut to the police finishing the cleanup. The lead investigator asks Gentry if there's anything else he's not telling him, but Abe just buoys him off and leaves with Nancy.
Lieutenant, I'm sorry I cannot stay for your party, but I have some things to attend to.
Outside, Abe explains he for some reason doesn't believe Carter is responsible, instead opting to head over to Candy's place of work. They speed off as we cut to this woman dancing for a crowd. Abe and Nancy then take their seats as we get multiple close-ups of the dancer. Cut to this fella grout drawing faces on veg and smashing it. Abe then approaches the bar, bumping into Marlene, who once again acts like a total
Well, if it isn't Miss Glamour.
If I would have known you were coming, Mr. Clean, I would have bought a bottle of Pepto-Bismol for you and a bottle of disinfectant for me.
He tells her to deliver Nancy a super strong drink, and we watch as the barman makes a few drinks himself. Was that this film's attempt at comedy? Okay. Much funnier is what the barman says when he needs to take a break to talk to Gentry.
Hey, Charlie, take over for me. I gotta take a shit.
Abe asks the bartender who the veggie smasher is, and he tells him Grout's backstory. He was a soldier in Vietnam who used to smash in the heads of dead bodies. Now he's home and continues to do it with fruit and veg to relieve stress. Abe asks when he got in, and the bartender says about an hour ago. Abe then thanks the man and he f***s off.
Sure, buddy. Anytime.
Is it just me, or does that barman want to suck Gentry dry? I hope we get that scene. This movie was hailed as progressive at the time. Well, let's get really progressive and watch Gentry progress deep into the barman's arsehole.
Hey, Bonnie, you know that shit yet? Yeah.
Cut to Abe getting back to Nancy, who is now completely from that drink.
Oh, they sure make a great drink in this joint.
He says he has one more person to talk to and orders Nancy another drink as if she needs one. Cut to him going to chat with Grout as in the main room, this woman, Lola Price, takes the stage. That's when we see this radical feminist group getting ready to storm the club. Meanwhile, Abe isn't having very much luck with Grout when the feminists run in and start disrupting the show. Abe mentions Candy's murder to Grout, who doesn't react, instead running off into the club and out the front door as the investigator chases after him. He then returns to save Lola and pops her in his car before heading back inside to grab Nancy. Cut to Abe dropping a passed out Nancy on the sidewalk and paying a cab driver to take her home. He then jumps in the car with Lola and we cut to the pair back at her place. Here, Abe asks Lola about Candy, who is shocked to find out she's been murdered.
Nothing can bring her up. She was murdered tonight.
Oh my God! Well, who could have killed her?
He then asks if she knows Joseph, and Lola says he was in the club tonight waiting for Candy to turn up. He then mentions Grout, and Lola again says she knows him but is scared of him. Finally, Abe asks about the leader of the feminist group, and Lola says she's threatened to kill strippers before. Abe then thanks Lola for the help and goes to leave when she tries to get him to stay for some fun times. Abe rejects this and heads out, leaving Lola to sulk. I'm sorry, but are we just never gonna get to see Gentry's penis? I would love it if he whipped it out and it was wearing a little Sherlock Holmes hat and smoking a pipe. Cut to Lola walking to the fridge where she picks out a girthy cucumber before being startled.
What are you doing here?
The killer then uses a meat tenderizer to brutalize her bottom, which surprisingly kills her. I don't want to seem rude here, but it does kind of look like they just glued a bunch of meat to her ass. The killer seasons the woman's bum, then flips her over and pops one of her eyes out of her now completely rubber face. He does the same with the other eye, then leaves his fork in the empty eye cavity. They say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and I'd like to behold her take a shit in my mouth 70s style. The is much the same as the modern day version, except with a thicker bush that reaches all the way round to the arsehole. Cut to the police at the scene. Gentry takes a sample from the tenderizer and even tastes some of it, which can't be very sanitary. The cop asks the investigator for more info, but again Gentry is less than helpful. Abe tells him about him and Lola's conversation and how he could have f***ed her, which the cop seems super interested in. He spins some bullshit about the killer being a religious fanatic to get the cops off his case, then asks about Lola's smash behind when the cop produces this badge from the feminist group. The lead investigator then leaves and Gentry gives the sample to this cop, asking for it to be tested down at the lab. Cut to this woman cooking and doing the ironing when the killer strikes again. Oh, come on guys, that's pretty low effort compared to the last kill. Oh, okay. Getting better. Good lord, enough already! Leave the poor woman alone! Instead of leaving her alone, however, the killer cuts the woman's nipple off, which shoots milk, then the other nipple, which shoots chocolate milk. Alright, this film's officially lost the plot now. One set of tits spewing different flavours of milk. What the f*** is going on? Another stripper we saw earlier then arrives and immediately gets her face dunked in the boiling hot oil. Then yet another woman enters and delivers the best performance of the film. She's then joined by an elderly woman and this woman. Stop shaking the poor girl and go and take a look for yourself, for f***'s sake. Cut to the cops at the scene. Again, we get another scene with these two, and if I'm being completely honest, it's starting to really get on my tits. They continue to be pricks to each other when the cop reveals another one of those feminist badges was found at the scene. Gentry then goes to talk to the doctor, whose only finding is the murderer wasn't weak. Abe then asks Nancy to track down the feminist leader, find out if she's strong, whether she wears makeup, and acts sympathetic to her cause, also instructing her to take off her bra just to be safe. Which is solid advice. He also asks her to find out if any of the women wore wigs and to get samples. Nancy asks where he's going, and Abe advises he's going to meet the club owner, Marsden. At the club, Gentry hears the owner talking about holding an amateur stripping competition, then the inspector makes himself known and is attacked, but them all up with ease. Marsden then shares his dismay at finding out another 2 of his girls are dead. Gentry suggests Marlene, but Marsden says she hasn't got any tits and blows past it. Abe advises he's actually investigating the murders and asks about Grout. Marsden says the man left for warmer climates, and Gentry wonders if that's because of the murders. Marlene then comes over and threatens to quit if Marsden is going to work with Abe, with him explaining their mutual dislike of each other.
Yeah, I know exactly who and what this is.
Marlene and I have had what you might say the mutual displeasure of each other's acquaintance several times in the past few days. But in all honesty, I alone have suffered.
Just f*** already! The boss then asks Gentry what he thinks about the amateur stripping competition, and Marlene pipes up saying it's a bad idea. The boss doesn't listen as Gentry supports the idea, saying they should offer $1,000 as the prize and hold it there. He also offers to have a story about the event published in the paper.
You're nuts. After tonight, you won't have a place left. They'll tear this club apart. Stop and think a minute. There'll be hundreds of strippers. Things will get out of hand.
Cut to Gentry leaving wherever this is with new information, then to him meeting with Nancy, who seems to have been radicalized by the women's group.
I found out that the women's liberation movement is really together.
Nancy then says the leader does hate strippers, but isn't sure if she's to blame for the murders. Abe then asks about the wig, but Nancy says she doesn't wear a wig or makeup. Finally, Gentry tells Nancy to get the article printed about the competition and invites her out for the evening, making sure she wears something sexy.
Come in.
My, aren't we risque tonight?
I'm certainly willing.
They leave as we see the article, then cut to the club as the boss introduces the final 2 contestants of the show. Quick question, movie. How did they get the article printed in today's paper when the event is tonight? How does that work? Ruby Diamond then steps out and begins her performance. Cut to Marlene contishly taking Abe and Nancy's order, then delivering their drinks when we see Grout squishing shit. Ruby finishes her performance and Marsden makes some more terrible jokes before introducing the last contestant, Miss Ramona Mona. She begins to dance when Gentry says she's the sexiest woman he's ever seen, causing Nancy to become jealous. Nancy, who's now super wasted again, says that she could dance better than that. The dancer then nicks a sip of Abe's drink, causing Nancy to lose her mind. She then jumps on the stage and starts dancing herself, which the crowd seems to love. Again, listen to that music. It makes me want to stand at attention, but not in the way they intended. Unfortunately, we don't see any of this as Nancy takes everything off, causing the audience to go wild. Marsden then announces Nancy has won and will be working at his club, which she seems pretty pleased about. So much for the career in journalism. We see Marlene shooting evils at the stage, then cut to Abe dropping Nancy at home. He says he has to deal with something and leaves as Nancy gets comfy on the sofa. That's when the killer enters with this bottle of acid, which apparently was made in Poland. Nancy wakes up and struggles to get away from the killer, then trips and seemingly knocks herself out. And that's when the killer is revealed to be Marlene, because of course it is. Nice one to the movie for giving us so many red herrings though. I don't even think we got to meet Joseph Carter. Abe then steps in, disarming the killer and explaining that Marlene murdered and mutilated these women because she was jealous of them, because they had something she didn't. He then pulls off her wig and checks out her chest, exposing severe burns.
Was I right or was I right?
And it's pretty funny how little effort was made to hide the Bernie bald cap. Anyway, Marlene, without saying a single word, then rushes out of the apartment and this happens. Well, cut back inside as Abe wakes Nancy up and calls the police. He tells him the murderer is dead and then takes Nancy back to his place where he reveals how he worked out the killer, setting Nancy up as bait. At first she acts annoyed about it, but quickly comes around as Abe explains his chunky mate gave him a story about a wrestler who became a stripper and started working at Marsden's place. He was gonna marry her when the woman was caught in a fire and badly burned. They managed to fix her face, but the rest of her was f***ed, and this caused her to slowly go crazy.
Poor Marlene. Hers is the saddest story of all. She lost face 3 times. First with her wrestling fans, then with her striptease patrons, and finally between a layer of concrete and the wheel of a car. She did go out in style, though. It was a new car.
The pair then start kissing and the film comes to an end.
You've seen enough.
The end! Well, that was certainly an improvement on Blood Feast, but Herschell's best film? That doesn't bode well for the others, does it? The Gore Gore Girls is a vast improvement on Blood Feast as we're introduced to an investigator who knows what he's doing, a solid slasher mystery, and some absolutely brutal moments of gore. Too bad the film suffers from more ridiculously bad performances, an unlikable lead, and more padding than a push-up bra factory. The story is simple enough with a private investigator tasked with hunting down a serial killer. The movie throws a whole host of red herrings our way as Gentry conducts his investigation until eventually the perpetrator is revealed. I love that this is a much more traditional detective story with the honest-to-goodness killer reveal that you know I love so very much. I do wish we could have gotten more of an explanation from Marlene at the end, like a proper killer monologue, and the padding of the many dance numbers slowed the movie down to a crawl, but I still mostly had a great time. Onto the characters, and we really only get 3 of any note. Grout is the only one of the suspects to have a line or two, with the feminist leader never being seen past the raid scene and Joseph Carter never appearing on screen at all. That leaves us with Marlene, who I loved, if only because she gave Gentry such a hard time, Nancy, who I thought was adorable, and Gentry himself, who was just a arsehole throughout. I know he's supposed to be the aloof Sherlock Holmes-esque character who is always right and thinks everyone else is beneath him, but by the end of the movie I just wanted to see him fail. But maybe that's a me problem. At least his performance was passable, unlike all the strippers. Good lord, they were terrible. Funny, but terrible. Next is the gore, and as per usual we get some good stuff from Herschell here. The face removal was absolutely brutal, as was the death by iron and facial frying, but I wasn't quite as sure about the beaten bum. That might be one of, if not the laziest effect I've seen across the HDL movies I've watched, and the burn effects at the end of the film were atrocious. The clear seams on the bald cap and the fact they didn't even try to hide her hair was hilarious. Still, this one felt a lot meaner than Blood Feast, and that's something I'm always here for. Production wise, the film is perfectly fine for what it is. Early on we did get that double line, and I was excited to spot many more errors in the filmmaking, but was surprised to find that that was the only egregious one. Again, the movie looks and sounds like a shitty 60s Batman episode, but I think it's charming, and as I said before, I'd love to replicate this look for a future project. All in all, the Gore Gore Girls is an improvement on what came before, and even works as a proto-slasher, which really surprised me. It's got some great kills and a legit mystery, but suffers from pacing issues and ropey performances. I was expecting a bit more, seeing as this is known as Herschell's best film, a title I still think belongs to the Wizard of Gore, but in the end I had a really good time. See it for yourself, just make sure you don't forget the nipple pasties. So that was my review of the Gore Gore Girls. What do you lot think? I did enjoy it, but was a tiny bit let down by the promise of this being Herschell's best film. There was just a lot of padding with the dance numbers, but at least the kills delivered. Poor Candy Cane's beautiful face. Marlene must have really hated her. Speaking of which, if you want to see a sliced off nipple spew chocolate milk for absolutely no reason at all, completely uncut and early, head over to patreon.com/Jonjo Lyons. There you can find the uncut version of this video, plus others with more stuff being added every single week. We got the uncut reviews, Patreon exclusive reviews, slasher comic breakdowns, and the Discord. And all that can be yours for as little as $3 a month. You can pledge more, I really appreciate it, as I need to pay the medical bills for my own severe burns. How the was I supposed to know setting my dick on fire would be a bad idea? So that's it for another week. Like the video, leave a comment and click subscribe if you haven't already. My name's Jonjo Lyons, and just to avoid another severely burned person going on a killing spree because they feel undesirable, let me extend the promise of my penis. Also, I hear was really good for the skin. I'm just trying to make the world a safer place. See you next time.